Here we are, episode 39. Today we got Self Trusty Reptiles. He has a nice collection of geckos, special Leachianus. Yeah. There's my buddy Clayton.
What's up, John?
What's up, buddy?
Not much. What's up with you?
You're in the dream, man.
Right, I heard that.
Especially stopping by, brother.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Almost fell asleep.
How you doing? Hey, brother. Yeah. What's going on up there?
What's up, Self?
Good. You guys all right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Nice. Yeah, man. Just introduce yourself, brother.
Richard. Caledonian now. I'm located out in Staten Island, New York. I'm a barber by trade. Right now, currently, I'm working with specializing in leeches. Once I sold my first leechie, I was hooked. I got one at an expo, and then another one. Then started breeding, and just invested a ton of money to specific like square locality, and just started breeding. And actually opened up a facility built on specifically.
Oh wow.
So what are you breeding?
What's that?
What are you breeding?
Bitches, brother.
So right now
Crested
I'm breeding
geckos?
Leachies, Crested. Yeah, leech.
Oh, nice.
Crested, barbs, hoopers. I've expanded with several species of day geckos, details, electric blues. Just like diversifying, trying to work with new species.
What seems what seems your favorite one to? What seems the favorite one you keep around, man? Get you excited.
So, I mean, the leechies are my number one. So, the dark morphs and melanistic leechies, especially ones with color, so those things just blew my mind when I saw them.
Yeah, man. It seems like you the only one the dark ones. I never see those dark leeches before, man.
Yeah, the dark ones are pretty cool. I just actually hatched out two from a really nice pair.
Oh wow.
Tammy?
Hey guys.
What's good, Timmy?
Not much, reading a book.
I'm reading a book. What kind of book you read?
It's a psychological thriller.
This is from a dark movie.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. That is wild.
These two hatched out. So I have some more eggs incubating. But I mean, I'm pretty certain that these guys hatched out using melanistic. The parents weren't sold to me as males or even carrying the melanistic gene. But these guys were super black as hatchlings, not even a month old yet. And normally dark morphs don't hatch out black, but these guys were black fresh out the egg. The parents are really, really nice.
How many the clutches the female will lay? How many times
what?
How many clutches she will lay in the season? The Leachianus?
How many clubs? I can't hear. You're using like a mic or something. I can't hear you there.
Nah. How many clutches?
How many eggs will she have in 1 year?
So I most of my females they give me 12 eggs. So it's like 6 clutches, 2 eggs per clutch. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I keep a thin layer of substrate. So I don't put like some people put like 4 inch layer, like a 3 to 4 inch layer of substrate. And the problem with that is you'll never be able to find the eggs, or at least it'll be super hard to find them. So you'll go digging around. Sometimes they flatten it out completely, so you won't even be able to tell that they dug anything up. So I only keep like about like a half inch to like an inch layer of substrate, so that way when they do dig, you can see the base of it. So that way you know, all right, this one, this one laid eggs, this one is digging. Sometimes they dig several days before they're gonna lay, and they generally lay another 4 to 6 weeks, and they keep that going on until the end of the season. Some
I
of my
gotcha.
females in November, December, and then some of them start several months after. So I generally always have eggs incubating year round. Some of them start late, some of them start early, and then of course they tend to hatch 90 to 120 days. Sometimes a little longer. The beginning eggs that are laid in the winter time, because the room is naturally cooler, I get a higher percentage of females at a lower temperature, and then the ones that lay in the summer months, those generally typically hatch out males at the higher temperature.
So it's similar with the leopard geckos. You kind of take what you want, right? To be female or male, you keep the temperature low.
Yeah, if you keep the temperature. My first like 2, 3 seasons, I didn't do any temperature control because I just kept them naturally. I got like a 50-50 split just because of the natural, lower temperature in the winter and higher temperature in the summer. But now I have an incubator set up and I kept everybody in the beginning at like 70, no, at 69, 70 for female. And then I now have them incubating around 79, 80 degrees. So it's just naturally that temperature just because of the weather.
Do you keep the male all year round with the female, or you just keep for a lot of period of time?
So
The way.
the leech, they stay bonded year round. So I only separate them if they're like fighting, if I notice one of them is laying on the bottom, if it's lethargic, not eating. I try to, sometimes we fight and give them like a day or two and then they stop. But I mean, if there's blood and they're like really going at it, we have to separate them. I only had so far out of about, say, 20 pairs of leeches, only leeches. I only had to separate on 2 occasions from 2 different pairs. Out of all of them, only 2 females had like issues with the male. I separated one pair for about a month, 2 months, and then I reintroduced them, and they were completely fine.
So when you find the perfect pair, they stay together forever, right? You just be the same.
Yeah, the majority of once I haven't experienced the case where they were together for several years. Again, this is just my 4th season of breeding, so I haven't experienced that yet where they were together and then they started fighting and then they had to be separated. So most of my pairs, like I said, only 2 pairs out of all the 20 that I've had together, only 2 of them I had to separate. But again, one of them I separated and then reintroduced and they were fine. When I don't do any of the like switching the cord bark. So when I got into this, there wasn't a lot of information out there to read. And there was like a lack of videos on YouTube, lack of stuff on Instagram. And I just heard from other breeders, some of them would switch the male and female's cork bark to get them used to each other's scents. But I never did that. Some people put them in a tub, spray them, and introduce them that way. I just set up a fresh enclosure, completely clean, brand new substrate, new cork bark. I gave everything a good misting, and I put the female and male in at the same time. And I had no issues with it.
Oh wow! What size cage do you use for a pair, or single?
So GT pairs, I keep them in 2 foot by 2 foot by 16 high. Insular pairs that are normally a little bit smaller than GT, like GT meaning Grand Terra, the native of the house. like Point Near, Yate, Mount Humboldt, Cobus, Dore, and so on. Those guys are in the bigger cages. They're 2 feet by 2 feet by 6 feet high. The insular pairings are in the same cage, but there's a divider in the middle. So they're 1 by 2 by 16 high. And I had no issues at all with all of them. The thing is, they even if you put them in like a huge, you could put 2 leeches inside this whole room that I have here, and they're gonna climb their way into the smallest core hollow they can find. So they don't need like vast amounts of space. You put them in something too big when they're babies, they're gonna be nervous and scared. They're not gonna find their food because they're gonna be scared to venture off. So housing babies in smaller enclosures work best, and then gradually increasing as they age.
Yeah.
So I tend to keep doing what works for me and what I'm successful with.
So where are you from again?
I live out in Staten Island, so it's in New
Oh,
York.
okay. So do you have problems with humidity out there or anything like that?
No, so I mean, I first had these actually inside my house. So I had these in my house. I didn't have it like in a basement or anything like that. I was just sectioned off one part of the room, and I don't really. I use a small hatching rack for babies when they first hatch out. I keep a shallow water cup, so that water in that small tub keeps the humidity perfectly where it needs to be. In the beginning, I had these hygrometers that were measuring the humidity and I see that now often in the hobby. Which you could always tell like a newbie because they have all these like wires hanging with the TrueNet temperatures, the little LCD screens and stuff. And
Yeah.
I did it in the beginning, but I don't do that. Normally, you can take a look. Once you get a trained eye for it, you can know if you need to miss, the enclosure. Um, I tend to only miss my adult pairs during breeding season. So I looked
Okay.
at the temperature of Caledonia. They have like a dry season right before breeding season. So I feel like that also lowering the temperature and keeping them drier actually stimulates egg production and it gets them into breeding. So I tend to keep everybody on the dry side, coming fall, and then right into winter. And then after winter, springtime, I start increasing, temperature. Increasing humidity, and that's when I generally do my cleaning job, vacuum out all the stuff that it's brand new, fresh stuff to keep it more humid. And when they start laying, they start mating, males vocalize, they start breeding, and I get eggs within 2 to 3 weeks after increasing humidity.
Do you throw any springtails in your substrate to keep the this is difficult with the poop and stuff like that?
Any what?
Springtails?
Springtails, isopods, or anything.
Yeah. So when I did the first pair of leashes that I had back, this was I think in like 2020 going into 2021. I had an adult pair. I converted it was a 40-gallon breeder. I converted it with a plexiglass front, and I set it up with like I used spray foam and insulation board, and I created like a false background, and then I introduced the pair. I loaded it with springtails, isopods. I noticed that all the isopods climbed up into the feed cup with Pangea, and I was seeing on a daily basis isopods dying in the feed cup. It could have been because the whole sides of the enclosure were basically like a surface for them to climb on. If it's in a glass enclosure or like an extra terror, they're not going to be able to walk up the glass. So maybe that's the reason. But I don't do bioactive setup for any of my leases. I do bioactive on my day geckos, but I don't do any isopod on the leashes themselves. What I noticed, I guess I have some stuff that just came over time, whether it came from the cork bark or just from the house. There's like little, I guess, some type of living organisms in there that basically break that down. But I don't introduce anything. You know, like I said, everything is just organically happening on its own.
You do any
Believe it or not, sometimes. What's that?
you do any shows, yeah, or just not on the
Yeah, I do. I vent shows in Pennsylvania, and I vent White Plains is out in Westchester County. It's about 40 minutes from Staten Island, and the two shows in PA are about an hour and a half to like 2 hours away. So I do Hamburg, I do White Plains, and I do Oaks.
Nice. Do you do pretty good do you do pretty good at the shows? Do you sell pretty good at the shows?
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes the shows are hit or miss. So it's always good going into a show when you have a pre-sale. So I mean, but I also sell tons of products too. So I'm a distributor for Pangea. So I sell Pangea. I sell cork bark. I just ordered a whole pallet, 600 pounds of cork bark.
Oh wow!
And I have like as big as like I say about 5 feet tall pieces, weighing almost 20 pounds. So I have.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So sometimes that supplements if it's like a slow show and I don't really sell animals. I'm always selling something regardless, whether it's cork bark, Pangea, you know, geckos.
Do you have a
And then,
morph market?
Yeah, I have a morph market page, Self Trusty Reptiles. I do a lot of business on there. I host at least 5 auctions a month minimum. And that goes pretty well. I feel like the auctions do much better now than they did when they initially started them.
Right.
But when you tend to auction off an animal, it's more like you have to expect that animal to sell between 50 to 70% off what you were asking originally. So it's like when you auction off something, you can't think that you get like its true value, or that's the whole point of an auction. Somebody wants a deal, somebody wants to get something. So I tend to look at what I have in excess. Like if I have a lot of lily whites that I want to trim down, I'll put those on auction. Or I'll put like a male up or something like. I had purchased 2 species at one point that were sold to me as babies as a 1-to-1 pairing. And when they came of age, I noticed they were both males. So then it's like 2 oddballs. I didn't have use for both of them. And then I had another pair that grew up that was giving me the same locality, so I just didn't need them. I ended up selling one, and then the other one I auctioned it off. So I feel like an auction can get handy. You want to just kind of, offload the space, utilize the space for something else, and get rid of something that doesn't fit your project.
Right. Now, do you breed tokay geckos, or do you have tokays, or?
So because now I have like a facility, I'm looking to expand and get other things. Like I said, and when I started, I was actually eating leopard geckos. I had some tokays. But because those guys eat insects, like that's their primary source of diet, they tend to smell a little bit more than the like leachies and everything that's eaten from here. So I noticed the smell just got too much for me being in my house. So I sold off all the leopard geckos I had. But because now I have actually, a facility where it's away from my home and I have more space, I'm looking at getting into some leopard geckos again, possibly like tokays. Like some of the big gecko species, they need to eat live insects as well. Just like the Tahura and Crested, they do better if they're eating not just Pangea, but also having some live insects as well. The Leachies, they tend to, I'd say about 80% of my collection had zero interest in live bugs. I tried super enthusiasts, crickets, and I would say about only 20% had any interest. And half the time, of the 20, they didn't even care. So it's like a hit or miss. So I just got rid of all the reptiles that we eat.
Right.
Hey, bro, you want to show us some of your collection, brother?
What's that?
You want to show us some of your animals? Is there any chance?
Yeah. I'll start with one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, man.
Like I said, I favor like the non-mystic genes. So this right here is a dark maul, ex Harkido.
Wow.
Harkido's out in Spain. Harkido reptile, Daniel is name.
That's what I'm gonna say.
This,
We don't see that much of that color around here. I mean, I think the first person I see with black leeches.
Oh yeah, this guy is up to.
That
What?
thing
Yeah,
is
this one has color.
wild.
Yeah,
How, how,
yeah.
how much is something like that goes for, brother?
So this one I got. They were offering it as a baby, as a hatchling. I imported this from Chocolate Leachies as a baby,
Yeah.
and they were asking 7,500 as a baby.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
Did you say
let me give it a shot.
7,500?
Yes, sir.
Wow,
Yeah, they were
nice.
asking 75. There's like napkins in there.
That thing is wild, though, man.
Yeah, they were asking. I got it from Chocolate Lychees. They're based out in Korea, and they were asking 7,500 as a baby. It was a tiny, tiny, tiny hatchling, just about maybe I think 2 months old when I imported it.
Are you the only breed that has that coloration in the country?
No, there's people that have that. Um, when I started at a show, I saw a gecko. You know, when people have them out, breeders have them out at the show and they're showing them off to people. I went there with my kids and we came across the table of lychees. And like I said, I used to work in a pet store when I was a teenager. I always had reptiles growing up, but I never personally heard of a Leachianus gecko. And I was surprised. So when I asked the breeder how much is this one, I'm assuming that he had it for sale. But he's like, "Oh, this is one of my breeders. I'm not selling it. If I did sell it, I would have to get like 8,000." I was like blown away. I'm like $8,000 for a gecko, you know. And so I quickly did, research. I started reading up. I also I walked around the show, saw other animals, and I was like, I'll never spend that much money on a gecko. And then 2 years later, I dropped way more than that on geckos.
Oh, nice.
So but there's tons of people in the U.S. that have stuff just as nice as that, if not even better. Um, my whole plan in it was, like I said, I bought one gecko at the show, then I bought another one the following day. So I originally was just going to breed and just sell back the babies that I hatched out to breeders on wholesale. And then when it came time to, when I accomplished that, I hatched babies out, I had them, I said, let me just give it a shot, let me post out there and see if I could sell them myself. So I posted on Facebook and Instagram, and the same night that I posted, people were selling me money and buying geckos. And I worked with I have another close friend, Richie Lele, the gecko king, and he actually was the person I bought my first leafy from. And he basically walked me through shipping. He helped me out with obtaining like wholesale accounts. He also connected me in with people overseas. Like he did a lot for me coming into the hobby because we're in the same area. We've done the same shows. He never viewed me as like competition. He always just was there and just like was a good friend and also allowing me to utilize his resources and people he knows that he's established with. So I was grateful for that. And he encouraged me to like vend the show, try it out, because I actually was second guessing myself, thinking maybe I'm in over my head or I'm not ready, and he was just like, "No, do it." So
Big D pythons and geckos asked where you got that picture in the background.
I bought that off from Google. I think the artist's name is, I think it's Emily Burke. So if you just Google Emily Burke, Leachy Gecko, painting or whatever it is, you can get it on Google. I think even Amazon has it.
Thank you.
This one here is strawberry. This is a het melanistic. So this is 100% het melanistic. Melanistic is a recessive gene, so you need a copy from both parents in order to produce a visual melanistic. So het stands short for heterozygous. So het means that they carry the recessive gene, but they're not visually displaying it. So the homozygous form of melanistic was the one that I previously had, and that's something that's visually expressing the recessive gene. Same thing like albino. Albino is a recessive gene. So when the animal appears to look, in appearance albino, it's visually expressing it. So it's known as homozygous form. heterozygous is carrying the gene but not visually displaying it. This guy has some really nice bars. One parent was actually a rat melanistic, and the other parent is a pet trover melanistic. Pet melanistic trover.
Nice.
This has some really nice colors. I like the face red. Right now it's fired down, so it looks a little purple. But this guy is like bright red. He's like red wine, red.
Yeah, I can see the purple.
That's a Leachy also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are.
I love how big they are. I love how big they are. What's up, Brittany?
So Richie, I don't take to a Leachian to get a full grown to start to breed.
So it depends on the locality. GT pairs should be at least like over 3 years old. So at least minimum, you want to try to breed your GT pairs like this one that I have out here now. Minimum age, especially more for females. Females should be at least 3 years old. They by 3 years old, they basically reach their length, but they'll still continue to bulk up. Some of them to get over like 400, 450 grams. This is a female that's on top of here. Yeah, it's a female. The male is inside.
Now, you say GT, is that for like giant leechies or?
Yeah, GT is a abbreviation for Grand Terra. That's the main.
Oh, Grand Terra.
So the
Okay.
way New Caledonia is one main island and then a bunch of little like satellite islands all around. The ones coming from the satellite islands, they tend to be smaller but have much more color. The GTs, they have much more size, but their colors are more like a darker base. Some could be green, so like yellow, like these guys here. This is a Mount Humboldt pairing. These to me,
Wow.
they resemble Yate, but you see a Yate in person, and then you see these, you can see the characteristics are different. But these guys, amazing.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite Leachians you have of the different places? What you prefer the
So
most?
that was the melanistic that I said. Keto X Dark Mall was like is one of my favorites in my collection. Aside from the dark morph pair that I had, that I recently had those two dark babies from. Male is something that everybody goes crazy over. Just to touch back on like breeding age, males around 2 years old, males tend to be ready. Like the Arquito I pulled out before, he was actually had his like parts out and he was like ready to go. And he's only about, I'd say, he'll be 2 in October. This coming October will be 2. So he's right around the 2-year-old mark. And he's, like I said, he's ready to go now. But he's just small. He's not full grown, so I wouldn't attempt to bear him yet. He's not able to get it down the street. The problem with breeding a female too early, too, is they can become egg bound. So you want to make sure the female has a nice size to them. If the male is able to do his job, the male does his job. But you always want them to be close in size. You don't want one towering over the other.
Yeah, those are awesome looking geckos. They're big too. Shoot.
Yeah, huge. I'll actually pull out a bigger pair.
You got a bigger pair than those? Holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a piece of
This is what I was talking about. These guys here are huge, and they're in like a small core hollow. So this is what I was saying, getting back to size and space. Even though these guys are bigger than the other 2 that I had out. Even though they're huge, they're going to go into the smallest space possible because that's where they feel most safe.
Oh wow.
I don't even know if these guys are going to cooperate. But these are, this in here is a type C. So there's like a lot of misconception out there when it comes to this locality. I think of like the originators that went out there, like Philippe, Frank Fast, and everybody that did these expeditions and found these animals in the wild in like the late 80s. When they first brought them over, they were classifying them by types. So they had like type A, type B, type C. And then they started, I guess, using like localities of where they found them from. So, I mean, today when you hear like GTA is a type A, it should be like a Point Meunier cross latte. But then some breeders labeled like a GTA could even be a Point Meunier latte and a Mount Cordis. So there's a lot of like discrepancies and people arguing like that's not that or that's not this. So like type A, type C. Type C's were known to be like the biggest, and they also have pattern and color. But what's most out there is a lot of crosses. Like for somebody that have a pure type C pair that's breeding and producing is rare. And there's a lot of like, breeders saying they have type C and, a lot of controversy behind it. So I specialize in, pure stuff, but I stay away from claiming to have like a pure type C just because of all the, hype around it. But these guys have type C.
You see more coloration on the Cahoas or more on the Leachianus?
More coloration on the what?
In the Cahoas, that's what you call it?
Cahoas or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so it all depends on the look. I'm not able to get these guys out.
No, it's all right, man. Don't worry. It's Cahoas, right? So my broken English not too bad, man.
Cat, that's not a croc monitor, is it?
No. Really. No, that's
Cat was talking in chat about monitors.
Yeah, those guys. Do you see more correlation? You see more coloration on those guys, or you see more coloration?
Yeah, these guys. These guys tend to have more coloration. It all depends on the lines they come from. So, there's chewies out there that are like basically just brown, no markings, no white. Another friend of mine is Troy. Troy's geckos. He has some insane like high white where the chewy is like completely all white. Like it's ridiculous.
Oh wow!
This guy basically has a nice white collar. This is one of the most, I would say, the nicest, Chihuahua I have. I didn't really in the beginning. I didn't go crazy with the other species of the Caledonia geckos. I was focusing on pure localities of Leachianus, but I did branch off. I do have, like I said, I have chewies, gargoyles, cresteds. When I was getting into this, a lot of people saying like the crested market is saturated. So I didn't really, I got it like I think year 2, I started grabbing some crested just to diversify and have other geckos. So that way I'm not just trying to sell leeches at the shows and I could have other options for people. But
that is pretty. That is very pretty. I like the bigger ones better though.
Yeah, the big ones, they really catch everybody's attention.
Yeah, because you hear geckos and most people think of leopards or, the Crested, something small, but then you see something big like that and you're like, wow.
Yeah, they are the biggest species of the gecko.
Frappuccino female crested gecko. So these are pretty good. It's cool working with the cresteds because you could just like hatch out different things. So like This here will hatch out, like you could hatch normals from this. You could hatch, other fraps if it's, paired to, depending on what it's paired to. So you can make more fraps. Frap is cappuccino and lily white. So you could get like lilies from this that's just showing the lily gene. Then you could also hatch out some cappuccinos and then also frappuccinos. So
Now,
it's like pretty cool.
is that breeding that to a normal? You can hatch out all those, or
So with the lily white gene, you don't want to do lily to lily because the babies they'll hatch out, but they don't make it. And I think it's I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think it's like a leucistic you create. It's like an all white gecko, and they don't make it. They don't last. So it's like taboo to like cross, lily white to lily white. Um, with these, like I said, you could hatch out if you pair this with a normal crested gecko, you'll still make lily whites. If you take a lily white to anything, you'll make more lily whites, which is cool.
nice.
That's the cool thing about crested because you'll get like a from all the clutches that hatch, you'll get a different morph from different during the season. It's like with the leechies, you're just going to create, if you take two pure localities together, you'll get the same thing. But some of them might, look nicer than others, but you're not going to create like, three different genetics from, like the leechies. Unless you're breeding like a het to a visual male, then you'll produce some normal babies that carry the gene, and then others will be a visual, representation of the recessive gene.
What you got over there in your hands? A red lily white? Or just a couple.
This is a frappuccino.
Frappuccino lily white.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably cappuccino,
yeah. The genetics this one has is lily white and cappuccino together. They create what's called frappuccino, and it's in
That's
sugar.
why now I understand why there's so much money, because the way you pair them, you can get cappuccinos and lily whites and all that out of it. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I love lily whites, man. Right now, I'm trying to make some lily white Dalmatian. That's what I'm shooting for. Especially the super Dalmatian with lily white. I love those.
Yeah, lily whites are easy. It's easy to get lily white. Like I said, you can take as long as you're working with the gene, you'll create it.
You can get.
But the thing is, this one is completely fired down. This is a really nice. They tend to drop their tails, and they don't regenerate them. The cresteds, the leachies will regenerate their tails. Cresteds don't. So it's kind of a bummer when they do. This is a porthole red. It's just super fired down now. It's like a pastel kind of color right now. But this one is really nice. He dropped his tail. I upgraded their enclosure size, and it was just, I don't know, he just started acting different, running around. He wasn't eating, and he dropped his tail. So I put them back in their smaller enclosure, and they're fine again, but this sucks that the tail and go back.
Yeah, and you know what though, about the one thing I learned about Cresties, if they drop a tail or not, they're still very expensive animals. You can still make money off them.
Yeah, exactly. Some people, like when some people come to buy something and they ask about the tail, like some people stay away from Crested just because they feel if the tail is dropped, they just don't want it anymore, or they feel like it's not,
Right.
not as much of a thing or whatever. But from a breeder's perspective, it really doesn't matter because, like you said, they're going to produce again. Nothing's wrong with them. It doesn't affect them in a negative way. They're still able to reproduce, and from a breeder standpoint. If somebody that wants for aesthetic reasons, obviously they're going to want to get them.
Right.
Yeah, and an aggressive gag is very easy for them to lose it. It's kind of normal to see aggressive gags with no tail at all. Leopard gag would be a different story for gargoyles. To me, it seems like aggressive gag is like the most sense to lose the tail. Really, really easy.
Here's another beautiful locality of the Leachies. This one,
Oh yeah.
Canala, with really nice purple. It's a
Wow.
Nurple line Canala from Leaping Leachies. The majority of my Leachy collection I purchased directly from Steve at Leaping Leachies.
Holy heck.
This one is beautiful. Even when it fires down, it has like a gray base, and then it just has the purple is like insane looking, like really, really. The purple stays even when it gets fired down. Um, I have babies from these, but Canal was like one of the localities I saw where I was like, wow, I gotta have that. Because it gets a little confusing when you're trying to look. Like if you look at the chart, to me, a lot of them look the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the GTs are bigger, but I didn't. There's certain ones that I just didn't care to get. Like my original plan was to buy a pair, one-to-one pairing of every single locality there is, just to have it. Like not crosses, just like isolated localities, like isolated Pine Isle, Bayonnaise, um, all the insular islands, Nuana, Nuami. But as I started, learning more and seeing them all in person, it's my own opinion that I feel like a lot of them look the same. So I didn't care to get like an isolated pairing of Nuana or isolated Nuami because I feel like they look the same. And then when you look online, it tells you like certain characteristics and traits that are like identifiable to the locality, but I feel like you overthink it and you'll trick yourself into thinking that something is different.
Yeah.
It's not taken away from anybody that's working with those. If it works for them, it works for them. But it's just my own opinion on it. I didn't see the point in certain
What
times that was for like pure locality, but each their own.
which people do you advise for people to looking for to buy from? Like
Which what?
what's the good breeders you advise somebody else to buy it from?
Like other breeders, a good breeder.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So like I said, my friend Richie, the Gecko King, Jimmy Ma, Gecko and Gecko, Troy's Geckos. I'm gonna butcher his last name if I try. So Ted Vetterling out in California, South Bay Lychees. I've done business with him. Um, who is it? Tiki's Geckos is cool. That's where actually I didn't buy it directly from David. I got it from someone else that purchased it from him. That was one of the ones that didn't come out of the pork collar. Um,
Yeah, you have to man.
let me put this guy with now.
What you got for gargoyle geckos?
So I'll pull out a nice red stripe.
Yeah, bro. That's why I'm working too, man. I love the red stripe. I got some Dracula from Gecko Gecko's bloodline too. Thank everybody stopping by. Oh boy, that's nice. Oh,
This is a nice red 61.
nice.
I know it was shedding yesterday. I think it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these two are clutch mates.
Oh, nice.
These are really, really nice. This one has much better coloration. The stripe is saturated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was actually gonna hold this one back, but I got a good offer on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I tend to do is, like if I have something that I want to hold back, I just price it higher or more fun. And if it sells, at a respectable price, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sell, like I said, I would just keep it as planned. But these are really, really cool.
I'll just probably make too much noise, brother.
I like the skeleton. They're super blocks, like skeleton guards. Those really. I had some really nice ones, but they sold off like towards the end of last season.
I love that one on your right side, man. It's gonna be nice. Not the other side, right hand. That's it. You're gonna be.
This one is just fired up. This one here.
Okay.
This one over here is not, but this one is. This one really, really shows nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the super red stripe is my favorite, man. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I got some darker bloodline from geckos, and actually I got some mags cooking right now.
Tiki has some really, really crazy guards.
Oh, yeah. How many gargoyle geckos do you have right now?
Like babies, I only have about 30. I guess like about 30 babies left. There's so many. There's so many other geckos that I have to put up on North Market. I just haven't had the time because I've been busy with the shop and then moving locations. So I plan on getting them over the next couple of weeks. I plan on taking more photos and people that live out in California and Florida, they're lucky because they can go outside and take photos year round with their animals. I feel like the photos outside look much better having like natural light, natural sunlight. So I'm only able to do it, this spring and summer months. But, or you can set up like a photo box. But I tried doing that little photo, one of these boxes I bought on Amazon, but I just didn't have the patience. And
Yeah.
this now from that purple pair, and this one has the exact like color and everything of the parent.
Wow.
But I noticed with Canala, they have the purple, and then they get like this yellow ring around their eye. So some other localities, I've had other ones that had it, but it's like when you have like a Canala with the purple, and it's really really distinctual, and then they have that like yellow ring around their eye. So it's like a trait characteristic of Canala. I don't know if the other ones that have it, somewhere down the line, they could be connected. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like there's no when it comes with the lychees, there's like no genetic. I wish there would have been like some genetic testing done so that we could tell like this locality, like differentiate the localities from like a scientific, background to it. But then that doesn't happen. They're doing for like you could send in shed. Morph Market does it now. You could send a shed sample, and it could tell you what your boa like has. What takes if it's heterozyte or whatever it is. So I hope they would do something like that with lychees one day.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the leech. Yeah, the ball python genes. Yeah, they have that now, but that's why I thought you were talking about to realize figure out where they're from, what the different darlings.
Yeah, that would be cool if they had other. Go ahead.
No, I said I was actually when I started, I wasn't into the lychees. I actually had boas, so I was breeding boas. I actually had like 20 species of isopods. So I had a ton of isopods. I had boas, I had the leopard geckos, and the boas just because again it was in my house. So when you're feeding like the rats and stuff like that, if some of them didn't eat, and you throw the defrosted rat in there at night, and you leave it. Some of them the next day you wake up, you have a rat that was just sitting there, fermenting, and it just got to the point where I ended all my projects with boas. I sold off my boa collection, and it was literally right when I had two females that I believed were gravid,
Oh,
but I
wow.
sold them. 20 days later, the dude I sold it to sends me a message, a photo of a tub with like she had I think like 48 babies, and they were like jungles, they were like hypos. It was like a crazy litter from like ranging from like 200 to like $1,000 each boa, and there was about 50 of them, and I was like kicking myself, but I just I couldn't keep up with it no more. It was like if I had a place like this, maybe, but it was just too much. I went on vacation for a
Yeah.
couple of days, and I came back and like the smell was just so you got to do that like every single day. You got to go in there, pull everything out. A good friend of mine, Mike Gallo, Devil's Den Reptiles. He has tons of boas, retics, Burmese pythons, but he's like every day he's pulling the paper out, putting new paper, cleaning everything. Like his place is immaculate, but he's there every single day, constantly just changing stuff out, and I don't have the time to the upkeep like that. Sometimes you get consumed with the hobby and everything you're doing. And,
Oh, yeah.
my barbershop and the geckos and all this, this is pretty much feeding twice a week with the leeches and the new cow species, feeding twice a week, top off water cups, spray if needed. They're fine. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like that.
That is, yeah. Thank you, everybody stopping by. Yeah, Rich, I appreciate so much you take your time to show some of your collection, brother.
Yeah, once. So yeah, this one on my TikTok, this is the one that everybody goes crazy over this guy here. So this
Yeah,
is the
man.
back of those dark babies that I showed out, that I showed you guys in the beginning. This one I got from South Leachianus as a baby, and this thing was like it had like a brick red hue to it, like it appeared melanistic. It looked like a mel. This thing never ever ever like fires down with any like green color. It doesn't get gray. It's always like dark, like black, like this, or it gets like that brownish color, and it has like that velvety feel. Everything that a mel, all the characteristics and traits of the melanistic, this thing expresses. But again, it wasn't sold to me as a mel. It's just sold to me as a dark morph, RZBM to MCBM. But the babies, they look melanistic in appearance, and I guess I still have more eggs hatching, so I'm gonna hatch out everybody and see, get from all of them.
Yeah,
But
the eyes are amazing.
yeah, these things. This is why I just like fell in love with these things.
Rich, do you ever got bit from a full grown leech?
Just a couple of times. So whenever somebody buys them from me, I always recommend telling them like don't mess with them at nighttime. So because they're nocturnal during the daytime, they're in like a kind of like a real docile, state. And even at shows, like you'll see them at expos just sitting on the countertops or on top of the displays, not even moving. So they're kind of like in just like a trance, during the daytime because they're nocturnal. But at nighttime, they're completely different. So I always recommend people like don't do the cleaning, don't do the feeding. I've gotten bit maybe about 3 times. There was only one time I got bit by a pointy ear. I was taking a video, and he just turned around and like grabbed like my thumb towards my hand and my thumb, and but I didn't get any like a severe bite where I needed stitches or anything like that. But I've gotten a few love taps, but it's always because either I just like reached in, I wasn't paying attention, and like the male or the female was right at the front. And sometimes when you reach in, they'll grab you. But it wasn't. I feel like if you get bit by these, it's your fault. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah.
Like I said, when I go in there and feed them, like I'll get up to feed them. Like I get up at 6. If I start feeding around 7 in the morning, I'm pulling cups. They're just completely in their hollow. They don't even on there. But sometimes,
is Leachies care like leopard geckos? They require heat or heat lamp or.
So no, the Leachies, they do best at room temperature. So you want to keep Leachies in like the mid 70s, like 72 to 75 is perfect for them.
Oh, okay.
They can tolerate temperatures. They can tolerate cooler temperatures better than they can tolerate heat. So you never want to go above 80 for a long period of time or below, say, like 60 for a long period of time. That's what I tell people. Keep it between, never below 60, never above 80 for an extended period of time. And that's temperature that you yourself wouldn't want to be in. Like nobody wants to be inside a house at 80 degrees. Nobody wants to be inside, at 60 or 55. So it's generally what's good for us is good for them. They don't require UV, just like other nocturnal species. They're out in the wild sleeping. They're not going to be exposed to the ultraviolet rays from the sun. So UVB is not necessary for them. I mean, I've been doing this 4 years. I don't provide UVB to any of my Leachies, and they're all fine. I'm hatching out at about 300 a season now, and I don't have any issues at all. So if they needed UV, obviously my collection wouldn't be growing, and I wouldn't be, hatching at this capacity.
Right.
Like this day gecko, I'm also working with viper geckos. Those are pretty cool. I have some coming. Vipers, day geckos, they require UV. So if you don't supply UV to those, they're not going to do well. So no heat with the Leachies, no UV. Wow. That's just if they eat it, that's fine. But like the chewies, Cresteds, they do better when they're eating bugs in addition to
right.
Nice. Hey, Rich, we got about 5 minutes to go. If you want, you can throw a couple of babies. If people are interested to buy from you, you can show really quick so they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, babies, some available babies. Yeah. Let me put this one back.
Because I see the snake lady, she's going crazy over here, man. She might give you a call, brother.
Yeah, for what? For which one?
She's in love with the big leech, the black one leech you just showed now.
Out, yeah. Well, those babies, I only hatched out 2 so far. I'm not selling them. So I've gotten some like high offers from overseas in Korea. This is a cute little GTX Bayonnaise Leachy that hatched out. So I'd offer this one for $450.
There you go.
Oh wow, that's pretty. I like that one. Super nice too.
So it has some nice. When they hatch out, sometimes they have some like nice color. You never know when you hatch out a baby what's gonna come from it. So the best thing is to grow it up. Don't sell a baby. Grow it up. You see what hatches out. But after you've done a few seasons with the pairing, you know what to expect. So you can take a look at, like me, from a breeder standpoint, on my collection. I can look at something and I can kind of tell like which direction it's going to go. So I would be comfortable selling a baby like this at that price. Is fine. But other customers, they tend to have sometimes different indicators.
Yeah, that's really pretty. I like that one.
When this one hatched out, I knew it had great potential, so I held it back.
Oh wow!
So I have babies available from both of these. A lot of them they're up on Morph Market. Like about all my Leachies are up there and posted. There's Self Trusty Reptiles on Morph Market. If anybody wants to take a look.
I gave you a follow here on TikTok, and I'll go to your Morph Market and follow you there too.
Oh, thank you.
That's a champion one right there, man.
But over the next few weeks, I'll be uploading like everything I have available. I just haven't had the time now, but I'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks because now I integrated both aspects of my businesses. So I got a barbershop and I have the reptile area. So 3 separate rooms in Staten Island, New York. And,
Heck
I like
yeah.
to sit here and
And you got an amazing collection of leechies. Somebody earlier asked what was your favorite locale, and where'd it go here?
my favorite locale.
Yeah, what's your favorite locale or traits to work with?
So my number one is like melanistic. Aside from that, like Point Noir Black caught my attention from Steve. Leaping Leachies. It was Point Noir, Yates because they're big and impressive. Kanawha on Insular Islands, the smaller ones. Kanawha really piqued my interest. Um, yeah, so that Troger Kogus, I love Troger. So you have Troger Kogus, and then you got Frito. Frito tends to have some dorsal pattern. The Trogers tend to have a clean back, no dorsal pattern, some bars on the side. Boro is a really nice locality. If I got time, I'll grab it real quick and show you.
Yeah, bro. Oh yeah.
Yeah, amazing collection, that's for sure, of leechies. I'm really impressed of the size of them things. I didn't realize they got that big.
So these are Boro. So you see how it has like clean back, no dorsal pattern. The Troger Kogus has this. These guys tend to have like dotting, like how a Yate or a Point Noir would have these dots on the sides instead of like lateral bars. But the Boros are just on the darker side, and they have those dots. The same thing like a Yate or a that would be I think 10. It's Boro, yeah. Boro's 10. So this one up here. So you can see out of all of them, the Boros are the ones with the dots.
Yeah, yeah.
Not say have them too, but they tend to be like really small. They kind of look like a star, like in the sky. So like a really, really small speck of like white, like a dot. But the Boros tend to have larger circles.
Yes, bro. That's cool.
32.
Yeah, they are.
Now, is
And I
that
think
that's a certain locale?
Yeah, this is Goro. This is a Goro GT, a Grand Terrier locale. But for Grand Terrier, they're not really that big, like other GTs. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the whole locality of these, there was a grab a little bit. This whole locality just started with, I think, just from two, I think, So when they originally field collected from Things Past, I believe Steve only had about 2 of them, or maybe 4 to start with. So every Goro in existence, I think, all gets traced back to what Steve had. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know if that's why they're smaller in size or whatever, but like as compared to the other, GTs, they're much larger, but these guys are smaller.
Hey, Richie, thank you so much, brother. I don't want to hold you any longer, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I will enjoy you.
Thank you for coming in, man. You have a real nice collection. It was a pleasure meeting you.
And tell us where the best place to reach you if people are interested in, man.
Instagram, Self Trusty Reptiles. Instagram is good. If you go to the Mork Market page, check me out on there. Also, my cell phone number is on there. You guys can send me a text, give me a call. But Instagram is where I'm most active on. Instagram is really the best place to reach out.
Heck yeah.
Hey, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, man. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. We enjoyed having you here.
Everybody in the chat, too. Peace out.